Hi everyone, thank you so much for attending today's webinar on promoting health and wellness through sustainable transportation. My name is Barbara Moreno. I am with goDCgo School Services as the Client Services Manager. And today we're going to talk about exactly what it says, how you can promote health and wellness through sustainable transportation. So let's go ahead and get started with the first slide. So something I like to do during all my presentations is I like to get to know my audience a little bit better. So I'm curious as to what your school's reopening plans are. So what are you currently doing right now? I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. As you can see, I put a couple options up there. I know that there are many options when it comes to reopening schools. So I'm curious as to what your school is currently doing. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. And I'll give you about 3 seconds or so to answer it. Okay. Seeing some responses come in. Give it another 10 seconds or so. Okay, let's go ahead and close this poll and see these results. All right, so as you can see, it looks like the majority of the people on this call, about half, are doing 100% distance learning, right? So you're definitely in the right place to learn about how you can promote health and wellness through sustainable transportation as your school does some distance learning. But I also see a couple people are doing something a little bit different. So I'm sure you'll get some information out of this as well to how you can support your staff as they currently start to commute back to school as well. And go ahead and hide this poll. And continue my presentation. Great, so as I said, we're going to learn today about how you can support your school staff's wellness during distance learning, also how you can support employees as they do their remote work, and importantly, what you can do to support commutes once we're kind of done with distance learning. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about goDCgo and school services. So for those that are new and are attending the first goDCgo webinar, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. goDCgo is an initiative of the District Department of Transportation. We are a leading resource for transportation information and options. If you ever go to our website, goDCgo.com, we have a plethora of information. Whatever you're looking for when it comes to transportation, we have it. So definitely check it out, goDCgo.com. And our goal, the reason we have all of this information on our website, is because our goal is to decrease traffic congestion in the area, improve air quality, and create a better quality of life in the DC area. And we know we can do this through sustainable transportation. So what about goDCgo School Services? So obviously we're an offshoot of goDCgo, and we're here to provide complimentary consultations to all DC schools. So whether you are a DC public, private, or charter school, we are here to help you do a couple things. One, we're here to help you implement and enhance commuter benefit programs based on your staff needs. And thanks to the recent pandemic, we have expanded that to include helping you develop telework programs. And there are a couple schools that have developed telework programs for their non-teaching staff. So if you're interested in exploring that, definitely reach out to me. My contact information will be at the end of the presentation. Secondly, and we'll definitely do a presentation more in depth on this in the future, is we're here to help you assist students and families in using sustainable transportation. We know that there are both staff, students, and families who rely on sustainable transportation as their main mode, whether it's transit, biking, or walking, to get to school. So how can you support them and assist them in making sure that they can continue using those modes safely? Now to the meat of the presentation. How can you support school staff wellness? Well, first we're going to start with some tips to stay healthy while teleworking. So because of the current situation, right? Working and living is all at once. So it's important to incorporate wellness into your teleworking as well. So a couple tips that we are encouraging admin to do is to encourage their staff to take conference calls on a walk using headphones, right? Of course, maintaining proper social distance and wearing a mask as well. But this is a great way to get some exercise and get work done at the same time. Another tip that we are recommending is to encourage your staff to stretch and make sure you get the blood flowing every couple of hours. One thing I've noticed personally while teleworking is that I was able to focus very well. And so that means I can go long stretches without really any movement. I'm just sitting at my desk, pounding out work. So my back starts hurting, right? Start getting a little tired. Since I started incorporating stretches regularly just to kind of get my blood flowing, get those juices going, and I can continue working more efficiently later. Another way that we are encouraging staff to really focus on their wellness is to engage with others during the day so that they don't feel isolated. Obviously, again, some of us have family at home, some of us are living alone. So how do you make sure that that loneliness doesn't impact the wellness of your staff? And one way to do that is to engage, make sure that you're encouraging them to engage with others throughout the day. One thing my work is doing is that we actually have a coffee roulette. And so every 2 weeks or so, I get assigned a new person on my team to talk to. And it's been honestly a really great experience to get to know more of my team members. And it's just a quick little half-hour coffee session. We get to talk, get to know each other more. It's honestly been a really great lifeline during this pandemic. And of course, the last point on here is in line with kind of making sure that kind of gets some movement, is that there are a lot of trails around DC. DC has a lot of trails. So one thing that you can do and encourage your staff to do as well is to explore a close to home trail for some exercise while practicing safe social distancing. So right now I have one right around Anacostia and the Kenilworth Gardens on the screen. We have this and more on our website. Again, plethora of transportation options and information on our website, goDCgo.com. So definitely check that out. We definitely have the full map on there and many more as well. So please go ahead and check those out. Okay, and you've probably noticed that there has been a bike boom in the district and other cities across the country. I personally have seen that. I've seen so many people on their bikes, and it's great. Not only is it wonderful just to reduce congestion, get a car off the road, right, which are definitely kind of some purposes of goDCgo, but there are also so many personal benefits to biking. So one, helps you decrease your stress levels, right? We all know that we've all been a little bit more than stressed out during the pandemic. So it's important to, again, get the body moving, which is why that's been a big central tenet of the presentation, right? It's finding ways to kind of get that body moving, get some wellness going. Additionally, improves your posture, right? After sitting at your desk all day, right? Maybe start to get hunched over. Great way to fix that, down your bike. Helps improve your coordination, strengthens your bones. Again, reduces anxiety, which I'm sure we all have a little bit of. And importantly, right, allows you to increase your productivity, right? Sometimes it's just nice to get the blood flowing, get the juices going, and then you can come back to work and be even more productive. Lastly, it's also one of the best ways that you can get exercise during this pandemic and still be able to safely follow physical distancing protocols. It's really a great exercise. So the trick is, how can you get your staff to do this? Well, one way you want to do that is you want to make sure you help your staff access bikes. So there's a couple of school services solutions. So one, we can help you access Capital Bike Share corporate memberships, which allow you to give your staff free to low cost access to bikes. And if you're DCPS, make sure to message me. There is a special Capital Bike Share contract with DCPS. So more than happy to help you figure that out as well. And secondly, we can also offer assistance in setting up a comprehensive bike program to make sure that your school is bike friendly, right? So that can include helping you get access to bike racks, helping you figure out how to do a bike subsidy, right? There's a couple elements to that as well. And if you're interested in that, again, definitely reach out to me. More than happy to help your school get set up on that. Right. So now to the physical working part, right? there's the wellness part, and there's also just the physical actual of doing teleworking. So how can you support your employees who are working remotely? Right, so there are some teleworking best practices. So one important thing to have your staff do is to find a dedicated space in their home for work if possible. And so it's important to kind of have a space that you dedicate to work, but we understand that not everyone has a huge house and can dedicate a whole room to being in an office. I personally worked from my dining room table for probably half of the pandemic. And how I was able to kind of find a dedicated space was I dedicated one dining table to be my working dining table, and I carried a work backpack pretty regularly, so I would unpack and repack my stuff every day, and it just kind of created a nice little routine. I had a dedicated space on my dining room table. That was my workspace. That's where I work. My work backpack is where I had all my work items, and that was my dedicated workspace, right? So you can get really creative with this. Now I'm currently at a desk, did a little upgrade. So now I'm at the corner of my living room working right now. Another important thing you want to encourage your staff to do is to actively engage with other staff in meetings. And so obviously one way that can be is by turning on the cameras, but we understand that not everyone is regularly camera ready. So we also encourage staff to use the chat box, right? Do game nights. Right, that's another thing that's really fun to do. There's Jackbox, right? There's all these other kind of like programs out there you can do fun things with and really kind of like engage with your staff. Again, scheduling stretch breaks and taking regular breaks, make sure that you avoid burnout. I've been using the Pomodoro method. I recommend that. That's been a great way to kind of keep myself focused and schedule those stretch breaks as well. Another important thing, and this is my last point on this slide, will be that it's important to find a sign-off time, right? So being part of the team, it's important to know, right, when people are working, when people are not working, and really communicating that across the whole team. So that way we know, right, that person's not going to be answering emails, that person is answering emails. And that just helps the workflow a little bit better and helps people, again, know like, okay, if I email this person before noon, they're not going to respond to me. Right, so another big way that you can help your staff, right? Again, going back to that dedicated workspace, it's really helping them create that comfortable workspace. And assistants can look in two ways. So one, we can help them access techniques. That's one thing that you can do, right? So just the physical stuff, right? Do they have the monitor they need? Do they have the keyboard they need? The mouse, the internet, right? Basic tech needs. Do your staff have them, right? And how can you help support them in obtaining them? But beyond that, there's also additional workspace needs, right? Can you help them get a desk, right? If they have room for it. What about a chair, a nice ergonomic chair so that their back doesn't hurt? Lighting, a nice lamp. Sometimes, right, you don't have the option of natural light and your little work corner is a little dark. Having a well-lit office, no, it's definitely a nice feeling. So that's one way they can kind of, again, right, help them create a comfortable workspace and really promote some of that wellness, right? And lastly, of course, wellness activity, right? It's not just enough to, right, provide physical tech needs. Again, as I was saying earlier, right, wellness is really being incorporated into a more kind of a 24/7 model, right? It's no longer, right, wellness starts at 5, right, and I work, right, from 9 to 5. Is really being incorporated on a more regular basis. So what are ways that you can help support your staffs in wellness activities, right? Is it providing a yoga class, right? Is it providing some meditation like resources, right? These are all ways you can support your staff and really help them get comfortable in their workspace at home. And in this last section, we're going to talk about how you can support commutes, right? Now that you've been supporting your staff during remote work, there will be a point where they will return to the classroom and to school. So how do you support their commutes once distance learning is over? Okay, so one big way that you'll want to do that is to develop a sustainable transportation plan. So again, back to goDCgo being a plethora of resources, This whole plan is on our website. You can fill it out at your own pace. If you have any questions, of course, I am more than happy to help you walk you through how to fill one out, but it is pretty simple and self-explanatory, but more than happy to help on that. The reason it's important to create a sustainable transportation plan is that I know many schools have no parking issues, right? Small parking lots, people parking out on streets, right? But there are people who are within walking distance, people who are within biking distance. Right? How do you help shift some of those people over into those more active modes of transportation and really free up that space? And again, this also applies to students, right? You don't want a really congested pickup drop-off line either at your school. So how do you help shift some of those families over into biking to school and some of them into walking to school, right? This plan kind of helps you walk through kind of the information that you need to figure this out and also provides you some clear-cut strategies that you can implement to get your staff and students and families walking and biking more, which I think will be really important post-pandemic. Another important thing is hosting virtual commute office hours. That's a great way that you can support your staff. As you can see, the news and transportation keeps changing pretty regularly. Sometimes, right, Metro just opened up all of their stations, right? All 91 Metro stations were open, but there was a ton of track work happening over the summer. Who knows what's going to happen by the time schools are open full time, right? So one way that goDCgo can help with that is that we can help you host a virtual commute office hours. So we'll work with you, set up a time, and then your staff can just come in and ask me whatever questions they have about their commute. And I will help them find the commute that's best for them and answer any questions that they have about what's going to be happening when it comes to transportation and other sustainable transportation modes. Again, if you want to encourage biking, right, get some of those cars off the road and off your parking lot. Becoming a Capital Bike Share corporate member is one great way to do that. And another way, I'm going to go back to the slide. Capital Bike Share is a really great way to do this. There are over 5,000 Capital Bike Share bikes in the DMV areas. There are over 500 stations as well, docking locations with Capital Bike Share bikes. So this is a great way to help people access bikes who may not want their own bike, right? May not want, right, that may not have room in their home for a whole bike. This is a great kind of option for them. But for those that do want their own bike, are like, hey, yeah, I'm going to use this time, really got back into biking, now I have a bike, how do I figure out how to bike to work? You want to make sure that you support them, right, in this endeavor to bike to school. So one way you can do that is by providing a bike subsidy. So employers can provide a bike subsidy. They can cover a couple of things, right? So one, you can help them cover the purchase of a bike, right? Partially, help them purchase a bike lock, right? That's an important thing when you're commuting, right? Where am I going to park my bike? Is it going to be safe, right? A helmet, right? That's another great way. And of course, tune-up and repair costs, right? Bikes are significantly cheaper than cars, so a tune-up and a repair cost can be covered by $100 compared to having to provide that for a car, right? So that's a great way to kind of continue encouraging biking for staff that decide that, yeah, this is for me, this is what I want to do as I go to school. That's going to be one of the best ways to kind of keep them on that bike. And lastly, one important thing you'll want to do, right, is that you kind of create this culture and help develop this culture of sustainable transportation at your school with your plan, providing bike subsidies, you can be a Capital Bike Share member, all that good stuff, is you want a point person who's going to be your champion, right? You're a champion for school transportation. And we're calling this person the school transportation coordinator. And so I have a couple of these at some schools, and their duties have been, right, be my main point of contact at the school, right? So we're sharing information, we're figuring out plans together for that school. They're also in charge of promoting wellness, right, through sustainable transportation to school staff, students, and families. Also promoting active transportation, right, like biking and walking at the school, and of course, implementing the school's sustainable transportation plan. And so this just makes it a lot easier, right, when you have that one go-to person that's like, hey, like, you're the person in charge of sustainable transportation, right? I have questions about a bike subsidy. I have a question about the Capital Bike membership. I have questions about public transit, right? Makes it a lot easier to have this one person to go to at the school. That person comes to me, I go to that person. It's a very nice symbiotic relationship that we can have with these school transportation coordinators. There are also some additional perks to being a school transportation coordinator. We give you a free Capital Bike membership. We get some swag because we know that this person is very key, especially in the post-distance learning community. All right, and with that, we've reached the end of our presentation. So I'm going to ask you one more poll. Obviously, you heard me talk a lot about kind of how goDCgo can help you during school during reopening. So I'm curious, how many of you are interested in our services? So I'm going to go ahead and open this poll. Give you about 30 seconds or so to answer. Okay, looks like most of you have responded. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll and share that poll. Looks like yes, most of you are interested. All right, so definitely be in touch. This next slide that I'm gonna go ahead and hide this poll has my contact information. And of course, opening up the floor to any questions that you might have. But my contact information is there. Whatever kind of piques your interest, please feel free to email me at barbara.moreno@goDCgo.com. More than happy to answer your questions and really help your school figure out these next steps during these next couple of months for reopening. And with that, opening it up to any questions that you guys might have. Oh, and there is a question box. Apologies, I should have pointed that out earlier. There's a question box in the little GoToWebinar side box. Minutes. Okay. Great. Well, it doesn't look like anyone has any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and end this presentation. Thank you so much for attending today. I hope I was able to give you answers to some of your questions around reopening and supporting your staff during remote work. Again, my email is barbara.moreno@goDCgo.com. Oh, never mind. There's a question. Oh, more of a statement. All right. Well, as I was saying, again, my email is barbara.moreno@goDCgo.com. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. More than happy to help. Thank you again for attending, and have a great rest of your day.